So today I wanted to chat to you about letting agents, the model, how I think it can be improved, that sort of thing. So within my coaching business, I've been talking to a few letting agents in the last couple of weeks, and it's very much what I call the high street model. And it's the office, it's the staff in the office, it's tied to the office, that whole scenario, which has been the same for over 20 years. I just don't know why fresh stuff hasn't been implemented. And this is not me having a go at letting agents because, it works. People are making a living off of this. So it's not me knocking it or having a go. I just think I've got some stuff that I can add. I've been in real estate a long time. I've worked on the high street. I think I've got some stuff that I can add that can help you with your business. Or if you're starting out and you're thinking, I'm gonna start a letting agency, this is for you. Please speak to me so I can help you before you spend any money. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the letting agency side of things today. And for my experience anyways, a lot of these, your typical independent letting agency officers, a lot of the owners or directors of these businesses actually work in the business. They're not that any business owner is anyway, I guess at this level, but they're not on a beach, sipping cocktails, enjoying their best life. They are in an office managing employed staff, which is stressful. They are not living some kind of flash life here. They are in the office. They are working with people day in, day out. They've got stress. They've got responsibility. It's a lot for them. So they're working in the business, a lot of people that I speak to. And I think a lot of them do not want to be in the business. Nobody wants to be at that level. You kind of want to be managing the business, overseeing it, looking at financial reports and that sort of thing, keeping the business on track so that it is, profitable, so that it is at some point perhaps saleable, so it is, perhaps able to bring, the family into it if you've got young children and, when they're getting older, bring the family into it. It's for lots of different reasons, but it isn't to deal with tenant issues at that level. That's what you're employing your team to do. So, but unfortunately, a lot of letting agency owners or property management business owners end up working in the business. And the other thing that I've noticed as well is a lot of high street agents are overstaffed. It's too much employed staff. And you know what? You don't know what you don't know, right? So I think a lot of maybe letting agency business owners have worked on the high street, so that's all they know, or that it's busy, they are busy, and so therefore they need to bring on another team member, whether it's part-time or full-time employed, and so they just do it, rather than structuring their current staff and using them better, utilizing them better, and then using more modern methods. So I see a lot of that. I see a lot of overstaffed offices. And then the third thing, which you can't really get away from because it's just done, is actually having the office, the physical office itself, and being tied to it. A bit of background, if you don't know me, I do have a letting agency in Cornwall, UK, and I have not employed people in our letting agency for definitely 4 years, if not 5 years or more now. So we just don't employ people. That's not because I'm a employed people hater. I think if you follow me, you know that that's not me at all. But I'm definitely, looking to make my business profitable in different ways, and how I can save time both for me and my team. So it all kind of stems from that, really. And so in our letting agency, that's what we do. We run our letting agency on self-employed people and virtual assistants. And I'm so glad that I never fell into the trap of getting an office, because I did fall into a trap in the early days of having employed staff, building this beast of a business. And thank God the one thing I didn't do was get an office, because it's a big tie. It's financial responsibility. And when you've got an office, what do you want to see in your office? You want to see people in your office. And that's the worst thing. And I remember working in New Zealand in real estate. And if you were in the office, it was like you were going to get booted out. Your manager wanted you out of the office, because if you're out of the office, you're in front of clients, you're signing contracts, you're making money for the business. So they don't want you in an office. Whereas my experience, certainly in Cornwall, estate agency, as I walk around, and I've traveled, I've not spent loads of time outside of the UK looking at estate agency offices or letting agency office, but most of the time when I walk past, there's a lot of people in the office. And I think it's sometimes can be a problem rather than a solution for letting agencies. So that's the other thing that I've noticed. So I've noticed letting agency business owners tied to their business, working in the business, having too much employed staff and having the office and being tied to it. And I think there's some workarounds there, which I would like to discuss. I think for letting agents being tied to the business, it's partly habit because you've allowed yourself to be sucked in all the time. You've got a team. They should be quite capable of running the tasks in the business without needing you. And if you're hearing this for the first time, you're probably thinking, Latoya, you don't know what it's like. But I do, because I've been there. Back in 2012, I grew a rent-to-rent business, quite a decent sized one for back then. And it just kind of took off. And I thought, I know what will solve all my problems. I will employ staff. And it was not the solver of all my problems. It actually made it worse. And if you're not utilizing your team, that's not good. And your team are quite capable. If you've employed people to work in a property business and a letting agency office, then you must have given them some kind of structure to work off and some kind of expectation of what their role is, and they should be sticking to that. They should be able to carry that role out without needing you. So I do know where you're at if you're currently stuck in that cycle of you've got a team, but they constantly need you, or they're referring to you, or they're sucking you into all their low hourly rate tasks. I know what it's like because I've been there, and there is a solution. So what you need to do with your employed staff is you need to look at your employed staff and see which ones are good. Perhaps all of your staff are good and you're going to keep them all. Perhaps some are not as good. Perhaps they're not efficient, or they're not giving you a return in your office. And I think if you look at your team, if you've got let's say you've got a decent sized high street office and you look at your team, let's say you've got, 8 or 10 staff. If you're looking at that, within there, you'll have your key people that you can trust to bring on landlords, deal with landlords, sign contracts with landlords, which is making the business money. Upselling landlords, whether that be on, a refurb service or anything like that. You've got your key people in the office that you can trust to do that. And then perhaps you've got some people in the office that you can't trust to do certain tasks, or you can't leave them responsible for certain tasks because you're going to have to fix some issues there or iron out some things, and they're better suited to a different part of the business so that they can be left to do more basic tasks. And so you should be able to look at your staff and know that. And by anything that I talk about in this episode today is not me trying to talk down to anyone or be rude about anyone. I'm just trying to be, basic and talk about certain things in a certain way. So hopefully you can get that comes across. I'm not trying to be mean or rude to anyone's roles. So within your really good, your top team, your top employed team, you can pick out the ones that give you a return in your business, and they can be left alone with tasks. They're going to make the business money. That's the key thing there. And with regards to the employed staff that maybe don't give you a return and they're doing really low hourly rate tasks, those are the people that can be replaced with virtual assistants. Because and I don't mean that I'm not trying to push anyone out of an employed job here, but let's be realistic. In this day and age, we've just got to be realistic with the businesses that we have and what's the best way to run them, what's the most profitable way to run them. If you're not making a living, or you're not making a decent living, what's the point? Because being a business owner is stress and responsibility, full stop. So you want to be making it worth your while. So with employed staff, you want your top employed staff at the front of the office that can sign contracts, make your business money. And then anything for the back end of the business, any low hourly rate tasks, you want to be outsourcing those to virtual assistants because they can manage those for you and they're much more efficient. So, and I'm sure you've experienced this before in your office, lots of stuff goes on that's not work related. lots of maybe tea and coffee drinking, maybe chatting, all of that stuff. And maybe that's part of being in an office environment with people. I work alone. I like to work alone in my office. This is my space. I don't, I don't like any noise or anything. Like it perfect. But that's, when it comes to working in an office environment, you do get obviously some productivity, but it's not 100% productivity. So when you're using a virtual assistant, they work from home and everything's timed, and you can see it on a timed sheet. If they only work for you for 36 minutes in an hour, that's 36 minutes they've worked for you. Then the clock stops and then they go and do something else, or they go to the toilet, or they have a coffee. So that's the thing with virtual assistants that I love, is they're structured and there's no wasted time there. So that's where virtual assistants can come in. And also virtual assistants are not being disturbed. So they don't have their colleagues sitting next to them, talking to them. They don't have somebody else coming to them, taking them away from their current task to go and help somebody else with their task. So virtual assistants for low hourly rate activities are just amazing. They crack on with it. They'll do, for example, if you use virtual assistants for maintenance and repairs within your letting agency, they'll crack on with it and get stuff done a hell of a lot quicker than your employed staff sitting in an office who are being disturbed by other colleagues, phones, all of that sort of thing. So, I'm a massive believer in having virtual assistants within your business. They serve a purpose, and within a letting agency, especially, they make a difference. So, that's that side of things covered. With regards to decreasing staff as well, you've got a massive cost to having employed staff. And if you know me, I'm a massive lover of UK virtual assistants as well. And they are not, when you actually say how much they are per hour, they are not cheap by any means. If you are, if you're used to overseas virtual assistants and you hear the price for UK virtual assistant, you're going to go, not for me. But I absolutely love them, and they serve a really good purpose within my property businesses, especially for doing phone calls and that sort of thing. So, but even when you compare a UK virtual assistant, the cost of them, compare that to an employed staff member, they're still cheaper than an employed staff member. So, and I've got a calculation for you, I will share. So it sounds like it's more expensive, but trust me, it's not. And it will make your business more profitable. And it does take away, there's lots of advantages to having a virtual assistant, because you're taking away the responsibility of actually employing them, because they are self-employed people. You're taking away the responsibility of the whole payroll thing, sick pay, wasted time. There's so many positives in having a virtual assistant. And of course, there are some negatives as well. You've got to balance that out. There are, and I'm happy to discuss those with you. But for me, virtual assistants, the whole positive and negative, it still outweighs having an employed staff member. I would go virtual assistant all day long. So that's that. Decreasing staff is going to make you more profitable. And the employed staff that you do keep, if you choose to keep any employed staff, it's got to be your top people. These are people that can be at the front of your business. So to give you an idea, I spoke to a letting agency recently, decent sized letting agent, and I said to him, just think about your team. There's got to be one person who can step into a manager role, a serious manager role, and you can trust them. And straight away he thought of somebody. And that's what I want you to think of. If you've got somebody in your office who's maybe a manager now, has a manager title, but perhaps is not being paid a manager's pay. And I don't mean this in a rude way, but let's face it, a lot of people on the high street are not really paid very well. And, so a lot of people have these manager titles, lettings manager or whatever, but they're not paid in proportion to perhaps the workload or the stress even. So if you've got somebody in your office who can be promoted to a serious manager position and just report back to you, that's the only person that's going to report to you, is this person. They're going to run the business, the day-to-day tasks in the business, and they're going to report back to you. If you've got that one person that you can trust, then that needs to be your front person. You can absolutely keep them, pay them more money. They're going to report to you. They're going to be your number one top employed person. And maybe you have somebody under them who is still going to be making you money. So they're still going to give you a return in your business. And they're focused on more networking, getting landlords on, bringing clients on, upselling landlords, portfolio landlords on the next property, or perhaps refurbing the property, because there's good fees in that. So now you've gone from, let's say, 8 or 10 staff, you've now gone down to 2 full-time employed staff, and the rest is either self-employed people or virtual assistants. That there makes a massive difference, not only to your business, not only to your bottom line, but also your mental health, because having 8 or 10 employees that you're responsible for is a big responsibility. I think anyone that has employed a team or currently has one knows you do have a sense of responsibility with it. It's very stressful to keep the whole machine going. And let's face it, when you get into that cycle of having 4, 5, 6, 8 employed staff, you've now got what I call a beast of a business. The business needs to earn so much money a month just to cover staffing, vehicles, fuel, just stuff like that before you even put money in your pocket for yourself. So you become this beast of a business, and it can really run away from you, especially if it just grows, doesn't it? When I did my rent to rent business back in 2012, when I started that, it just took off. And that's the only way I can explain it just took off. I had properties coming left, right, and center. So if your business is like that and you are successful and properties are coming in, it can be sometimes difficult to see how that's a problem and what you need to fix there, because you're thinking, well, we're bringing on clients, this is good, but you can go too big sometimes without actually looking at the financials and going, well, for us anyway, in our letting agency, we realized that student properties, student HMOs in particular, that were not being maintained by owners were costing us money for dealing with issues within those properties, and maintenance was taking a long time to negotiate with owners. So we ended up dropping those properties, which gave us more time back to focus on other types of properties, other types of assets. So sometimes you've got to look at the portfolio and go, okay, we don't actually need to be taking on these properties, or okay, we'll take on this type of property, but we will let go some of the older stock because it's causing us problems and causing our team time, and we're getting sucked into that. So sometimes you just got to look at the business. And then for some little nuggets now for you to implement into your business, the phone system. So letting agents that I speak to have these phone systems on the desk. And when the phone rings, it rings either everywhere or it rings to a certain amount of phones. And I just think that is so chaotic, because you could imagine your team sitting at their desk doing their task that you've paid them to do. And then the phone rings and they're taken away from that task in front of them. They've now got to deal with the phone call. Let's say that takes 4 minutes of their time. Well, how many times a day do they have to do that before they're just not achieving what they could be if you took that away? And so by having a phone system, so within our letting agency, we use a phone app. So it's just on the mobile, so they don't have to be office bounds. They can be anywhere with an internet connection pretty much. So the app is really good for that. And also our tenants are trained for how we run our business, and so is our team. So our team return phone calls within certain times of the day. So you can imagine if you've got tenants phoning you all day and they're getting instant, gratification from you answering the phone and speaking to them, that's great for them, but it doesn't help the business. And I'm not saying you have to ignore tenants, because I'm very much of tenants are clients as well. I want my tenants treated in a certain way. That's very, I'm very particular on that. But with the structured system, imagine if your team returned phone calls between 9 and 10 in the morning and 4 and 6 at night. And the rest of the time during the day, they're doing tasks that add value to the business or actually getting jobs done. Because let's face it, we all have days within the letting agency that you just get so much maintenance coming in, repairs, and it's crazy. And you can imagine if you're trying to be on the phone and talk tenants through an issue, or I don't know, someone's taken someone's milk, let's talk about student HMOs or something like that. And it's just those kind of things take you away from dealing with maintenance or repairs. And then you got the next day to deal with, and the day after. It's just constant workload before. And I'm sure you've felt like this and been in this position as well, where I remember back when we were in proper, employed letting agency role, there just didn't seem like enough days, like hours in the day to get everything done. And it's just you just feel like you're never achieving anything. So by having a structured team, they can get all the jobs done within a set amount of time, non-disturbed, phones aren't ringing, and they know, right, I clear all the calls between this time and this time, and I speak to people between this time and this time. And for me, that's a much better way to run the letting agency, run the property business. And also our tenants know this. So it's not a surprise to them that they don't get a call back between this time and this time. It's not a surprise. They know this. So maybe this is something that you can implement to your business. Get the phones on the desk out, and go. Something I didn't mention before, apologies, was we have a call center. So we have a local call center here, which I really am happy that I found. That makes me happy to do a local call center. So we have one in Cornwall, and then we have the phone system on the mobile phones, the app. And then we have our structure as well. So if you can implement that into your business, just imagine how much time that's going to save your team already. And this is great for teams that are, if you're looking at your team of 8 or 10 employed staff, and you're looking and you're like, Christ, it doesn't seem like there's enough hours in the day. We're so busy. Imagine if you took away the phone problem, how much more tasks they would be able to complete. And that's the whole point, isn't it? With the letting agency, is completing the jobs that we're paid to do and moving on to the next one. So that's the phone system. And then I wanted to talk to you about your key system. So this is something that a lot of letting agencies that I've spoken to anyway have a problem with, is their keys. And, they think it's got to be in an office, and therefore the tradesman's got to come in, pick up the keys from a staff member. Staff member has to sign it out and physically give them a key. Or the other situation of they've got to meet tenants at a property to hand over the keys on move-in day, and then, to be physical all the time. And you don't have to be like that. There are so many awesome key options out there. So you could have, if you've got a letting agency, let's say you do have an office, you've paid for this office, you can't get out of it for 2 or 3 years, you might as well utilize it. There will be a space that you can make where you can have a key safe system. It's a cabinet basically, and it's a coded system. So tradesmen can come and go and get keys with the code that you've given out. And that could be your virtual assistant giving out these codes, not your employed staff sitting in an office. It could be your virtual assistant that's organized for them to have a key code. They come pick it up, they go and do the job, they bring the key back and put it in the cabinet. And there are other options as well on, and this is great for HMOs, is having a lockbox system, maybe with an app as well, so that you can track who's coming and going, who's been in the property at what time. And those are another great option for keys. So you don't go on to the days where you needed an employed staff member sitting in a chair at a desk doing the key system. You just don't need it. So if you can implement a good key system into your letting agency, that again is going to save your team time. Again, your employed team shouldn't be dealing with this stuff, because this is low hourly rate tasks. Booking a tradesman, giving them key codes, and informing the tenants of the day the tradesman is coming. That's all low hourly rate stuff. Your employed people shouldn't be doing that. They should be bringing you money into the office. When I had my my self-employed person working with me, part of her job was to go out networking. And she grew a good chunk of the single let portfolio out of that. So that's another little tasty nugget for you, that if you've got a team, your employed team, let's say, you remember we talked about, you've got your top employed person who's going to be maybe your top manager, really step into a serious manager role. And then you've got the other person underneath them who's still good and reliable, but they're good at bringing on landlords, closing contracts, bringing money into the office. That person there, they could be out networking for 2-3 times a week to get your business name out there, promote you, and bring business into the office. Networking is so good. It really is. And it's just your time. So that's something that you can work with your employed staff on. So I also wanted to give you the nuggets on some numbers that I've run as well. So I've just done some a calculation here. It's a very basic calculation, so please be gentle with me. So I've worked out having 4 employed part-time staff on 15 hours a week each. Those 4 part-time employed staff, that's going to cost you roughly 2,800 a month, 2,800 pounds a month. And then if you have 4 full-time staff on 35 hours a week, that there's going to cost you 7,800 pounds a month. So in total, your employed staff are costing you 10,700. And then I've done a potential future cost of, let's say you've got one overseas virtual assistant of 40 hours a week doing low hourly rate stuff. And then you've got a UK virtual assistant doing 20 hours a week. So the overseas virtual assistant is £1,380 a month. The UK virtual assistant is £2,600 a month. So your subtotal is £3,900. And then we're going to talk about your 2 employed people you're going to keep. So you've got 1 employed staff member who can still bring money into your business. And then you're going to have your top employed manager person. That cost for those 2 people a month is going to be 4,200. So your total staff cost, potential cost for the future, is £8,229,000. The difference between the first example I gave you of the 4 employed part-time staff and the 4 full-time employed staff compared to having 2 virtual assistants and 2 employed staff, the difference there is £2,470 a month. That's almost 30 grand a year. Like that's pretty exciting to me. So that's some numbers there. I can pop them in the show notes, or you can message me if you want more details on that. So I just thought it was really exciting to talk about this because I think I can help a lot of letting agents, property management businesses, and also people looking to scale up. You know, people like me started out rent to rent, did really well with it, started managing other people's HMOs, and then that transitioned into a full letting agency, which is running today in Cornwall. So, you know, if you're looking to if you've got a letting agency and you're looking to try something new, or you're looking to scale your business and incorporate a letting agency as part of your portfolio or part of your business, then this is for you. And if you need more, if you want to chat through this more, then you can message me. I do a call, the first call, for free. So you can talk to me and say, oh, I saw this on YouTube, or I listened to the podcast. Can you talk to me more about this? And we can go into more detail about it. So yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed today's chat. It was great to talk about the letting agency model and how to maybe incorporate some of the things like the phone system or virtual assistants. And, you know, ultimately for me, I love talking about true profits. I think turnover just does my nut in. We want to be talking about profit, and so that is the point of business. If you're not profitable, you know, business is stressful, it's a big responsibility. So that's what I'm all about, is the profit margin as well. And I think what we've spoken about today can be a positive thing for the profit margin. So like I said, if you've got any questions, my links are below. You can reach out to me, and yeah, I will speak to you soon.